Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the fourth episode of the Soulcast Network. Today got to talk with good friend Stargazer, who studied the law of lore with Australian aboriginal elders. She's a dreamtime healer using holographic kinetics, and it was an absolute delight having this mind-expanding and thought-provoking conversation. I'm very excited to share this interview with you, my friends, so buckle up, get ready, because you are in for a cosmic ride to the center of the universe. Actually,
Right.
I would like to just go back a little bit about what we were talking about earlier about
Sure.
karma being part of the agenda of the what you call new cage deception, where
Yeah.
they give half truths and they mingle this with disinformation. And
Yes.
so you say that, of course, the whole idea of that we have to suffer for what we have done in past lives or this life or heck, maybe even future lives is actually just a big fat lie.
Yeah. So there's two components to that. The one is what uh, the concept you just mentioned, which is that the suffering, the concept of the suffering is needed for our personal evolution, is a distortion. Because we're in a system of domination and control within a matrix of anomaly, we are doing the best we can to wrap our psyches around how to come to terms with all of the suffering that we're experiencing. And one of them is, well, it's serving a purpose, it's serving my spiritual evolution. But that is actually not true. I think that's us trying to cope with very unnatural circumstances. And it plays into the system of domination and control, which is that somehow we deserve and or are being punished for our actions, which is just not true. It's a complete distortion, in my opinion. Suffering is not something that we need for our evolution. In the I'll call it the liberated universe, the portion of the universe that is actually operating in harmony with source design, is not based on any suffering whatsoever. It's based on cooperation and co-creation and individual expression. And that individual expression is not disconnected as we are here from source. And that disconnection from source is key, because when you disconnect, you begin to have aberrant behavior. You begin to have things that are not in alignment, so to speak, out of tune, not in harmony with the whole of creation. So we're in a bizarre structure. So that's the second component to it, is that we're not within normal circumstances here on planet Earth right now. So we do have the thread of truth, in my opinion. Of course, this is just all me piecing together, checking it with my own internal guidance of information that I come across. And you have the component of there being cause and effect, and then the component of there being the macro perspective of there actually being a situation of anomaly on planet Earth. So the cause and effect becomes completely distorted here. So I can speak to a couple of those different components, but that's the baseline that we're operating from. So yes, there is a thread of truth that we are creators. We are creator beings. We have the potential to completely create our reality. However, we are also within a system of domination and control that has components to it, a big one being the component of amnesia, where we come into this reality through, I'll just call it the veil, and we cannot fully remember our true potential, why we're here, what we're doing, how we can actually operate. And so it's very difficult for us to reach that place where we can liberate ourselves from that state. It's like,
So would you say that in a sense that the only control that quote unquote they those in power have is that they can fool us into believing that they have power,
Yes.
and fooling us into believing their artificial, made-up, imaginary construct,
Yes.
which
And
says that, well, you are not worthy, but if you want to be worthy, you have to follow those rules. You have to be successful at school. You have to be successful in society by having a career and making good money. And also, you are being judged all the time, not only by your friends and family, but also by God.
yes, exactly. So this concept that we're being punished for our behavior is a complete distortion of the actual way that creation works, which is cause and effect. So there is cause and effect, but karma, the way that it's operating on the planet right now, the concept of karma, actually is a complete distortion of that universal law. So we do have cause and effect. And what that means is in a free will universe, you make a choice and you take action based on that choice. You have a thought, you stop the flow of universal energy into a thought that you hold on to, that you amplify through your feelings, and then once you take an action from that as well, you're feeding that thought. It becomes a thought form, which can become a life form, which can become its own entity. And so the things that we're putting our attention to and putting our energy into and putting our creative force into actually does become our reality. Okay, so however, we are in a system of anomaly, disconnection from our ability to see the full picture and our full ability to connect with all that is from source. And it's not that we actually are disconnected, it's that there's a veil so that we forget and we have to consciously make an effort, which is another free will choice, to remember, to activate it,
So in
to
a
make it
sense,
active.
all this awakening, all that it really is just an act of remembrance.
Yes, exactly. Remembering and activating all of what we already have within us. So when we are acting out these types of distortion fields, like when we're agreeing to the concept of karma, through our free will choice, we're agreeing to the distorted version of a thread of truth, which is cause and effect. So we're always being given these truths, which is a tiny thread of truth, which is what hooks us in and go,
Yeah,
yeah, that
yeah,
makes sense.
because it
And
resonates
that,
on a certain level.
yeah, but
Yeah,
then it's completely distorted, and what happens is we agree to that, but we agree to the entire distortion field around it as well, and then we get looped into these cycles of, okay, we have to come up with, okay, why is there all this suffering on the planet? Oh, well, it must be, our karma or something like that, but actually it's not true. So the micro level is that yes, we do have free will choice. We do create our reality. We are completely sovereign creator beings. However, we are also operating within a greater construct of anomaly on the planet right now. So it's almost like the visual I would get is that we have to go completely to our internal source, connection with source, to pop out of that
idea,
bubble.
right? It's not about an external thing. It's not about connecting with something above. It's
No.
about going within and reclaiming that.
Yeah, and that's another one of the ways in which the system of domination and control functions,
Yeah.
is that we've been tricked into thinking that we have a friend of mine calls it outside source syndrome. So
Yeah.
the way things are operating is that we're not operating in a field of understanding, knowing, remembering, embodying our full potential as creator beings. We're really in this distortion field of thinking that, wow, all of this stuff externally is nonsense. There's so much nonsense here because we are in a field of anomaly, that it doesn't make sense to us, how can we be creator beings and have all of this nonsense around us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So so what getting to the point of understanding that, okay, there's the two factors. We are creator beings, but on the grander scale there is also this distortion field that we are within. So like, again, going back to that concept that we're here to remember, to embody the full frequency of ourselves as creator beings that pop through that veil.
So earlier on, you said there is no such thing as a classroom, as in that we are here to learn a lesson. But would you not agree that after that we get an opportunity to review our own lives and our own thoughts, words, and actions, and see what kind of consequence this had for other beings around us? And that in a sense, there won't be anyone sitting there on the throne and you have to be on your knees and this guy on the throne is telling you or pointing out all the things that you did wrong. No, what it actually is that you are, in a sense, the judge. You get to review your own life and you can take action from there. So maybe you have been, for instance, a man who has mistreated women all his life. And then maybe you decide to want to incarnate as a woman yourself to experience the other side of that.
Okay, so this is completely true what you're saying, except for I would toss out the word judge, because we're not here to, we're not even judging ourselves. It's not about judgment. It's about cause and effect. So our actions do have an effect. And once we come to that realization, because right now we're in a distortion field that wants us to be good slaves, basically. It's a system of domination and control. And one of the ways that that's set up is to keep us eternally as defenseless, helpless children, so to speak. And so, and the system of domination and control as our parents, or our the people who tell us what to do, that role play, right? So once we actually take responsibility for our actions, recognize the effects of our actions, our choices, our free will choices, that's the moment where we step into our full sovereignty, where we step out of the system of domination and control. So you're right, we get to this point, and it's not necessarily at the end of our lives. It's right now. It's every moment. We can go in and we can assess, oh, okay, I made this choice, this free will choice. What effect does that have? Okay, I see what effect that's having, and how you go about it is you basically acknowledge what it is. So you take a look and you say, that has a negative effect. Therefore, I'm going to stop doing that behavior. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the past moments where I've created the current effects from those kinds of actions, and I'm going to close that dimension of reality as well. It comes from a lot of forgiveness. Okay, we hear that word a lot being misused. Again, a distortion around it in the New Age movement. Forgiveness does not mean agreement. Okay, acceptance does not mean agreement. So you can accept something, and acceptance is the first key to step to any type of resolution of we'll say non-harmonious, discordant energies. You accept, okay, I accept what is happening. As soon as you resist, you're stopping the universal flow of energy. So acceptance of the situation, like for instance around us. Okay, I accept what is happening on planet Earth right now. That does not mean you agree to it. It means that you are not in action and reaction to it. Exactly. You're in zero point. You're accepting it. Okay, here's the circumstances. You're in 0 point. Acceptance, and then from there you can choose any action that you want to take, and that action is no longer a reaction. So you're no longer taking the external reality, putting it internally into yourself, and then keep looping and cycling in that reality. Instead, you're in 0 point, observing the external. You don't take it and put it within you. What you do is you make your free will choice from your own center, and radiate that outwards, so it's internal to external. Okay, so you're receiving the information from the external. That's feminine. That's a feminine action. You're receiving the information. You're taking it in with full acceptance, not agreement. Okay, remember? So that's a distortion that we don't want to say. When you receive something, does not mean you're agreeing to it. Does not mean that you're receiving everything to agree to it. You're receiving it as acceptance, and some of what you accept is going to be transmuted. You can't transmute something when you're in a reaction to it. So you accept it, 0 point, and then, so that's the feminine, full acceptance. And then some of that will be the word forgiveness, and that's part of the acceptance. You forgive, okay. And then you're saying, I understand, this is not working fully. It's not the way I want it to be. I see the effects of the actions. So therefore I'm going to change it. And that action that you take to change it, it's not a reaction. It's you choosing from your sovereign space as a creator being what you want instead. That's masculine action. That's the balance. So you have the reception and the action. So you have this perfect balance of masculine and feminine polarity. So it's not something that you go into like, okay, I'm really unhappy with the way the world is around me, and you're in this state of fear or denial or anything. You're not just reacting to the external. You're observing it as the observer in 0 point, accepting it and saying, okay, from here, what action do I want to take? So that's how you become fully responsible for your own internally created reality. Okay, so we are only in charge of our own energy field. We can't change someone else's energy field. We can't change what is exactly going on the planet for other people and their realities. However, we can completely change our own internally created reality from one where we're in 0 point, connected to our spirit, connected to source at all times, fully in control of the vehicle, fully driving the vehicle, in connection with your spirit. In 0 point, that's my trajectory that I'm on right now. Is what I'm trying to achieve moment by moment in this lifetime, because I think we can all do it. I think we all have the ability to do this. So your external reality then is starting to shift only based on what you are projecting out into the collective field.
Okay.
So the shift, the external shift happens not from you running out and trying to make it change. That's a reaction.
Yeah.
And you will get nowhere, because basically you're taking the external stuff that you're seeing, putting it into your internal reality, and then radiating the same back out.
Yeah.
It's about making your free will choice from 0 point within your own energy field and radiating that out.
Yeah.
I'm probably going off on tangents here, but I'm just following spirit with what I'm being guided to voice.
Absolutely, so I'm loving your download right now. So just keep on ranting, please.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering if I missed any of your questions. So we're talking about karma, and I guess some of the topics that people often want to avoid, that we're afraid of talking about, is personal responsibility. So a lot of people really, I feel, are afraid of looking at the very difficult things.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're not afraid of looking at the difficult things in the external. Because a lot of us are dissatisfied with the world, and we complain and moan about, environmental destruction, or why is so many people rich and so many people poor, and all of that stuff. So,
but even whole conspiracy thing, like people are getting absolutely 100% absorbed in that whole world of conspiracies, but they just get stuck in it.
Yeah, what that is again, people are it's such a clever construct that we're in right now of domination and control, because it's about hijacking people's attention and energy.
Yeah.
So if they can keep people from this step from becoming complete sovereign creator beings, like I was saying, keeping them distracted and engaged, their thoughts and their emotions engaged in the external world, then that's done deal.
It's so clever how many levels of distortion there are. Some people think that they are awake because they know about 9/11, but they're still living the same lives.
Yes, exactly, because they're still in action and reaction to the external.
Exactly.
Instead of getting to 0 point within themselves and radiating out. For instance, we are all completely responsible for our thoughts, our deeds, our actions, and our internally created realities. And once we understand that and get to the point where, okay, we're going to fearlessly look at all the darkest shadows we have within ourselves, then that's where the real evolution starts to begin.
That's real transmutation. That's real alchemy.
Our darkest shadows that we have within ourselves is what we're radiating to the collective consciousness, and therefore that's what's manifesting on the planet.
Yeah.
Okay? So our darkest shadows are being broadcast into the collective field.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the personal level. The secondary level is that there are beings who are mostly operating from, I'll just call it dark. We're going to have the light dark paradigm, but we have some beings that are mostly operating from that place. That's what the system of domination and control is.
Yeah.
So therefore, once we're in this cleverly designed system of domination and control, there are so many levels to trying to keep us in that submissive, asleep state, so that we can be controlled. And it's really is a slavery system. So the key, again, like you were saying earlier, is about going inward, remembering our true power, our true potential as creator beings, and then going about doing that. But there's this very tough phase where we have to acknowledge the effects of all of our actions. Okay, so that's the cause and effect, the non-distorted version of it. And some of that is going to be that some of the choices we've made have been within this distortion field. So they've had really, really negative effects. Some of us have played the roles of the extreme darkness.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to bear.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, some of the difficulty that some folks have in waking up. And I'm telling you, it's not an easy process, because we have to face all of our shadows. If you look at everything that we're seeing in the external, that's what we've got within us.
That's us.
It is us. So we've played all of the roles. This is what I'm learning through all of the healing work that I've been doing in my practice, is that okay, there is no us and them.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist. That's another construct to keep us distracted and isolated and separated.
Yeah. And it's also very powerful to recognize that whenever somebody else is showing behavior that you don't deem appropriate, that you also realize that you have been acting very much in the same way at one point in your life or previous life.
Exactly. Yes. So we've played all the roles, and not only that, but we have incarnated even, not as humans. We've incarnated as other beings. You're probably fully aware of this, but we haven't always been humans either. So we've taken all kinds of incarnations in all kinds of different time, space, dimensions, realities.
Yeah.
So we're talking now. We're going to start talking about multidimensionality.
Yeah, interesting.
And I'm telling you, I know just from my own personal experiences of what I've explored within my own consciousness that wow, it's not, things are not as they seem.
No.
So we can just kind of relax on those rigid boundaries, relax on the concept of separation and isolation and us and them, and understand that all of the shadow play is coming from a place of what is happening within our own consciousness, within our own psyche, and going in, doing the very difficult stage of that work of addressing that stuff, getting us to the point of forgiveness, relaxation, non-reactionary, 0 point, taking responsibility now for our actions now. Okay, so for the cycles of time, so we can loop space and time on the past, close those dimensions of reality so they don't keep cycling through the future. Because that's what we're holding on to, all of those things that are happening now, those ill effects that we have in our lives that we're uncomfortable with. If we go in, find the causal point of that, cause and effect, causal point of that, close that dimension of reality, finish it, let it go, which is part of forgiveness, then you're free and clear to move forward in time. Creating from 0 point anything that you wish.
And it's very interesting because, again, talking about the Neil Cage deception, I also think that the whole law of attraction thing, of course, there is such a thing as law of attraction, but the way they bring it is not very healthy because they pretty much tell you to not ever think negative. You always have to be positive, you know? It's very polarizing. So they won't ever tell you to go within and face the darkness. They just...
Again, it's a thread of a truth that is being completely enveloped in a distortion field, so that we get hooked into a moment of recognizing that thread of truth, and so then we buy into the entire distortion field around it as well. The distortion field, again, is playing into the system of domination and control. So the law of attraction states that like attracts like, which is partially true, but it doesn't fully operate properly on this field that we're in the distortion field that we're in. Okay, so the elders that I've worked with have talked about the fact that what you put out into the field is what's going to be reflected back to you. So that is very similar to the law of attraction, right? Very similar. Except the law of attraction tells you that you need to only think positive thoughts, like you were saying. If you have positive thoughts, positive things are going to come back to you. If you have negative thoughts, negative things will come back to you. So that is just keeping everybody disconnected from fully going into the process that I was just describing, which is taking a look at all of the places in which we have had, I'll just call it shadow aspect of our personality, of our choices, our free will choices that we've made, and taking full responsibility for them, looping those dimensions of reality, closing them. Forgiveness is a part of that. Acceptance of what is a part of that, as I was describing earlier. And understanding, making a conscious choice from 0 point from there, because then you can move forward until I'm free and clear as a sovereign being, making your own decisions. So if we are in a distortion field, what happens is that we have made a whole bunch of choices and have accumulated what I'll call energetic debris in our field from choices that we've made in the past. So we are radiating out still ripples of our past choices that we are holding on to, if that makes sense. Those dimensions of reality are still open. They haven't gone 360 and closed them. We haven't closed them. So the ripples of those effects are still radiating out from our field. Some of those are what I would call shadow aspects, things that we don't want to have happening anymore, things that we don't want to be radiating anymore. So if the law of attraction is accurate, they're saying that, okay, don't think these negative thoughts because that's what's going to come back to you. But actually, it's already happening anyways. It's already happening energetically based on our past actions. The law of attraction, that distortion field, stops us from taking responsibility for those actions, looking at them carefully from 0 point without the effects of the feeling of guilt or punishment or desert, like all of those distortion fields that are around it. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like the karma distortion field. We deserve bad things. All of those things are complete distortion that stop us from acting from 0 point, from clarity and taking responsibility. So it's true. What we radiate out from our field is what the universe lines up for us. Yeah. However, most of us have been caught, okay, that's not the correct word. Most of us have been operating in this anomaly on planet Earth and disconnected from our spirits, from source. And so we've been making all kinds of poor decisions, all kinds of things that were based on fear, based on just poor choices, basically. And poor choices coming from the perspective that we're in a system of domination and control that has us disconnected from spirit. So we're all afraid to look at those choices, take responsibility for it, and fully step into our sovereignty as creator beings. And once we do that, we know we're out of the game, right? Yeah. We're out of the game of domination and control. Yeah. So the distortion field that we're in is guilt and shame and all of these things that prevent us from actually going in and clearing our fields of the distortion that's already there. So guess what we're cycling through? More of that. More shadow, more poor choices, more things coming from reaction instead of 0 point conscious action, right? So it's just like we're looping in these distortion fields. So if we actually take the leap to take a look at all the shadow aspects, and we're not recreating them by looking at them. In fact, it's the opposite. So that law of attraction would have you say, don't look at that, right? But actually what you're doing by looking at it is bringing it to your conscious awareness. Guess what happens when things are in your conscious awareness? Oh, you can go to 0 point and take proper action. If it's in your subconscious, if it's something you're in denial about, something you're not willing to look at, and pushing it away means you're in non-acceptance. Denial means you cannot take proper action around that. It means you're not making conscious, sovereign choices. It means you're still constantly in reaction to things. So what you're radiating from your field is coming from a place of looping these distortion fields and keeping all of those distortion fields that we already have within us open and operating, because we're not willing to look at them and take responsibility for them. It calms down the fear. It calms down the sense of all of the distortion field that's around, that is part of the system of domination and control. So as soon as you're in a place of acceptance, you can feel the difference in your whole field, right? The guilt, the shame, all of those weird distortions calm down. So if you just go to a place of acceptance, you're already starting to come back to 0 point and being able to go, okay, what is it that I want? And so acceptance. The next one is, don't buy into that distorted version of law of attraction and say, I can't look at anything that's negative. Well, how can we change anything that is quote unquote negative if we're not actually looking at it? If we're not bringing it to our conscious awareness? So we have to fearlessly look at what I'll just call the shadow aspects. We have to look at them and take full responsibility for them. Yeah. So it's not an easy process, but it is a process that has, in my opinion, the greatest rewards. Yeah. So I'll just speak in the terms of my healing practice. So what we do is, and what I've learned from the Aboriginal elders, is you basically go to the source cause point of any effect that you're experiencing in your life. So, of course, I'm not talking external reality. The external reality is an accumulation or a reflection of our collective consciousness. I'm talking about our internally created reality, because that is your sovereign domain. That is what you have complete control over as your spirit in this vehicle, in this incarnation. And so your internally created reality, going in and taking a look at all of those shadow aspects within your own field. So what you do is you go into all of those places, all of those effects that you're experiencing in your life right now that are causing you suffering. And you take a look at that fearlessly to the causal point from the level of spirit. Okay, so the level of soul, so this is, people use soul and spirit interchangeably, but I'm just going to use the language that I learned from my teachers, aboriginal teachers, is that the level of soul is a level of this incarnation in this vehicle, in this moment, which is all of our experiences from this lifetime and all of our genetic lineage from this DNA skin suit, I'll call it. So our genetic lineage plus our experiences from this lifetime. And if you go to the level of spirit, okay, so just using these words as I'm just trying to give you a definition of how I'm using them. This level of spirit, this level of soul, first of all, is completely programmable. So you can have any program inserted in there that you want. And we all know that we're operating on a whole lot of programming. So if you go to the level of spirit, spirit is able to transcend all of that and is not programmable. So the spirit will go to previous lifetimes, for instance. We can access any aspect of any dimension, any time-space reality.
So does spirit have its own unique personality?
Yes, spirit is it's your unique signature expression of source.
And so would you say that when I am centered in myself, that spirit is talking through me?
Yes.
And would you say that in a previous incarnation, that if you would compare Jordan, the body sitting right here, next to the previous incarnation, and this person was letting spirit talk through him or her, then would we look very similar in the way that we are expressing ourselves?
Yes.
Interesting. Cool.
Except for the fact that it's probably very difficult within the realities that we've been given. For instance, whatever your previous life was for just prior to this one was probably within a bunch of distortion field from here and soul programming. So the expression that will come through will be very different. But if you're asking the absolute in terms of that incarnation, if it was sitting right next to your incarnation from this lifetime and you had full access to spirit, yes, it would be the same signature frequency. You would recognize it immediately. And I think that's why some people can recognize the spirit level when people are operating a lot in their lives from spirit level. You can recognize, okay, that person seems a lot like this other person from some other lifetime. So that's how that's operating. But going back to, okay, spirit being able to access any time, space, reality, any dimension, it's connected to source, so it has access to everything. You can go back to any causal point of any effect that you're experiencing in this lifetime, not just within this lifetime, any lifetime. Because there are, for instance, if you have a dimension of reality that you have out of your free will choice created that is in a previous lifetime, and you hold that thought, and you hold that frequency signature in your field, and you feed it, and you keep it open, the universe doesn't care. It'll create that reality for you. It will completely create, it will line everything up so that it's functioning. It's a dimension of reality. And until you've decided, okay, I've had enough of that dimension of reality, I'm finished with it, and you let go of it and release it, it's still an open dimension of reality, cycling through space and time. and through all of your incarnations until you decide that you're done with that. So if you go back to the cause of an effect that you're experiencing in this lifetime, for instance, all the shadow aspect within ourselves, all the things that are causing suffering, that are uncomfortable, that we no longer want, go back to the causal point, loop that dimension of reality, close it, and say goodbye to it. Then you're free and clear in your energetic field of that entire dimension of reality. You've set it aside off your time track.
Yeah.
And now you are not stuck in the pendulum swing back and forth in this dimension of reality, action and reaction. You are free and clear to move forward in time without that dimension of reality being active.
Yeah.
So you've closed dimensions of reality. So this is the work that I do in the healing practice that I've learned from the Aboriginal elders. You can loop space and time, close dimensions of reality, deactivate them basically on the spirit level. So a lot of modalities that we're working with are operating on the soul level. It's basically taking out the one program and inserting another one. So for instance, like positive affirmations. Okay, so you're deactivating negative thought forms and inserting positive ones. However, that only works temporarily if you have not gone back to the causal point of the suffering that you're experiencing and closed that dimension of reality for yourself.
Yeah.
So you can get some temporary relief by soul programming, but you can really completely, truly clear your field if you can go back and loop these dimensions of reality that are open.
Yeah.
So it's about fearlessly going in and looking at all the ways in which you're suffering. This is the same stuff that all of the wise sages have said throughout history. And it's very unfortunate that, they're saying this within a field of distortion and domination and control and anomaly. So it gets distorted, right?
Yeah.
So the wise sages have always said, go within. Look within. The answers are within you. It's not in the external reality. We're not going to line all the ducks up in a row in the external reality and then be free and clear. No. The external reality is what is going to be reflected once you're free and clear of all your distortions in your field and you are radiating out a free and clear intention. So, okay, back to the law of attraction. What you are radiating from your field does come back to you. The universe doesn't care what it is. It's a free will universe. So if you choose that what you want to radiate from your field is and control, well, that's going to come back. That's what you're going to create. It's your internally created reality. The universe will provide anything you want for you. We are creator beings, very powerful creator beings.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, two things at play. The micro and the macro. The micro being, yes, we are creator beings that have that capacity to radiate out our clear intention with our thoughts and our emotions, radiate that out into the universal field, which lines everything up, which creates that for us, and therefore, at that time, that's the reality that gets reflected back to us.
Yeah.
However, we are operating macro scale right now. We're operating within an anomaly vortex in the universe, a concentration of disconnection from source, veil of domination and control.
Yeah, or at least the illusion of being disconnected.
Yes, exactly. So that therefore we've accumulated collectively. Look around us. We've accumulated a whole bunch of, I'll just keep calling it shadow aspects. We've got to take out the trash, energetic trash. We need to do our spiritual hygiene. So we can't just say, I'm going to think good thoughts and what's going to come back to me is good thoughts, okay? Because what we've accumulated are distortions in our field. So, think about it. If we've got in our field locked in a dimension of reality of unworthiness or anger or resentment, or I'm just throwing these words out. If we've got those dimensions of reality open and operating and locked into our field, okay, we can have all the awesome thoughts we want and radiate that out. But guess what it's going through? It's going through a distortion field of unworthiness, anger, resentment, and guess what's being lined up for us to be reflected back to us? Anger, resentment, and just all of these distortions that we're holding on to.
Yeah.
So yes, we do have to go into our shadows. We have to close those dimensions of reality, completely clear our fields. Guess what the sages did? Guess why they meditated? Guess why they went and, tried to clean their entire field? Because guess what? Then your thoughts that you are creating, your thoughts, the reality that you're broadcasting out into the field is a clear signal. You're basically like wiping the window clean.
Yeah, because you're centered, so you don't get carried away in it.
Yeah, and you're operating from 0 point, from your complete creator being.
Yeah.
And you're radiating out your true spirit, essence, intention.
Yeah.
Not through a bunch, it's not going through the garbage of dimensions that you still have open and active within you.
Yeah.
It's going as a clear signal from spirit. How beautiful is that? That's like, okay, so we all have our in our symphony of co-creation with all of our other beautiful human brothers and sisters. We're all out of tune right now. We've all got our distortion fields open and active. And what we need to do is clear that stuff, so that stuff isn't our school of usefulness. To me, that's just, okay, we've chosen distortion fields. It was free will choice.
Mm-hmm.
We've chosen out of tune. Okay, so it's not a learning experience. It's a combination of factors, but one of them is, okay, we just go back, tune the instrument, tune the vehicle, and then guess what we can do? Get on with making a beautiful symphony together.
Yeah.
It's not a process of, we have to constantly go out of tune so that we can understand and learn and be schooled. No, you tune it, and then you keep going.
But would you say that everyone who is incarnated on planet Earth right now did so consciously?
Okay, well, there's a couple of things at play there again, because we might want to go back into talking about the concept of the fallen angel story. Why are we in this anomaly distortion field?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there was an aspect of, so I would say that we are all reflections of one another, of aspects of source, unique aspects of source. So it's not like I'm looking at you and you are me and I am you. I don't think it's that direct, but I think you are source and I am source. Yeah. And you are a beautiful, unique expression of source, and so am I. Okay, so there is an aspect of source that we can look at and reflect upon and say, what aspect of that is within me as well? There's an aspect of source that, I'll go back to the story, the version of the story that I know.
Yeah.
Is that there was and I'm just bookmarking your question, did everyone on planet Earth incarnate here consciously? I'm just bookmarking that so we can come back to it, because this is a big loop I'm going to go on right now. Yeah. So the story that I know in terms of how are we ended up in this distortion field. Source designed this beautiful universe that we're in, this free will universe, and there's multiple universes, there's multiverses. So, but this universe, we've got some fundamental principles that it was designed upon, free will is one of them.
Yeah.
And one of the aspects of creation that I'm aware of is contingency. Contingency being unpredictability of certain things. For instance, the weather. The weather has not been completely programmed. Mm-hmm. It's just, okay, there are going to be some things that are that is an aspect of the program of this universe. I'll just call it the creational play of this universe. One of the aspects of it that was inserted into play, one of the ingredients was some aspects not being completely predictable. Like, we can't predict every single day, what is the weather going to be this day, for instance, So there are some aspects to this universe that have the spiciness, like its randomness, its unpredictability. That is one aspect that was kind of built into the way this universe is going to be played out, the creation of this beautiful place that we're in. So when we have some aspects of unpredictability, some of those were perceived by some of the expressions of Source as uncomfortable. For instance, like unpredictability of an asteroid hits a planet. Okay, well, that's not so awesome. There in the way the universe operates, though, outside of what we understand here, there would be some very quick healing and understanding. Okay, what do we do about these aspects? And it would be realigned very quickly. However, there were some. This is the story. So we're getting into like Gnostic texts here and creational stories. And one of the highly evolved co-creators, beings in our universe, said, okay, I want to alleviate some of this contingency that is uncomfortable. And I'm going to take my consciousness and my being and dive into this contingency, this randomness, and bring about with my consciousness, my level of being, some more alignment to it, some more design. We want to design this a little more so that these uncomfortable, random things are not happening. Or how can we make it so it's not uncomfortable? But in doing so, dove so far into randomness that this being disconnected from source design.
And so this became a fallen
the
angel.
Original fallen angel.
Yeah, Lucifer?
I don't know if I would say Lucifer. Some other people might have more exact information about that. I can't remember if Lucifer is that exact being or an aspect of that exact being, or you can probably do some research on that, or I can ask some other people. But right now, I don't know the answer. If I would say for sure that was the being known as Lucifer. However, going into this disconnection from source also meant, okay, this was amplified contingency. Suddenly began doing actions and creating realities that they were constructing that were not aligned with source, because they're no longer connected. And therefore, this is now, at this stage, from our perception horizon, that we're observing things from what we would call evil, what we would call the anomaly. The anomaly being a kind of mushroomed disconnection from source, random acts of things that were not in harmony with the rest of the universe. It's kind of like a cancerous cell. I don't know if that's a really good analogy, but you can see it as, okay, this being went into disconnection from source, reached out, was like, oh my goodness, this is suffering. This really is suffering. This is painful. And all of the actions from there were not in harmony now, because with the unified field, with whatever you want to call it, with source, with all that is, because it's disconnected. So therefore, some of the actions being taken were not harmonious for the rest of the universe, because they're disconnected from understanding how it affects the whole. And that just began mushrooming. That disconnection, those actions, the cause and effect of those actions, all of the things that were the disconnection from source began mushrooming. if this makes any sense. So other beings were like, whoa, this is really bad. It's starting to get bigger, and wanted to go in and help. And guess what happens when you go in to help? You get pulled into that reality. So there are many beings who wanted to help, who got pulled into this, what I'll just call it a vortex of disconnection from source. So eventually what happened is the rest of the universe went, whoa. It took a bit of time, because this was completely unforeseen, right? That's what contingency is, things that are random and unforeseen, unpredictable. To understand how to respond to this, because it was so new and so, it's a thing that is just had never been conceived of, had never been experienced, because the rest of the universe is all connected with one another. You're able to understand the effects of actions and how it affects the whole and how it will be played out, and the actions are easier to choose in a harmonious way within this anomaly of disconnection from source, disconnection from the all. The actions are the effects of the actions are unknown, unable to see the effects of how it will affect the whole. So this is what we see on a micro scale in our isolation and disconnection from our spirit right now. So the rest of the liberated universe, I'll just call it the liberated universe, the free universe, the free will universe, said, whoa, and basically put quarantine around us so it did not spread further. Because so many beings were being sucked into that reality.
Are we talking about this galaxy or about this solar system that's in quarantine?
Beyond the solar system. However, after this quarantine effect was put into play, it's kind of like isolating a cancerous tumor, right?
Yeah.
After this, the rest of the universe was like, whoa, the whole universe is going to be, it's like a black hole. It will be destroyed eventually if we don't do something and isolate this. So quarantine was put in place. So we are now in the very tail end of, so the quarantine was put in place so that everyone can figure out what the heck to do. What do we do? What do we do with this? This was completely unforeseen, and now what? And we're in the tail end of that process of understanding how to realign. So source is learning, oh, whoa, okay, here's what's happening. We need to realign this, right? And taking action steps to realign this. So now we're in a place of coming into realignment with spirit, realignment with source, coming out of that vortex of disconnection and into the connection with the rest of the universe, the unified field, and our spirit. And our spirit is always connected to all that is. Okay, so individually, we can see how that's playing. It's everything I've been talking about. And in a massive macro scale, you can see it being played out in the galaxy, in a cosmic dance that's being played out right now. And my understanding from different sources, and of course nobody has the complete picture, but I've come across information that says, okay, this is from the Gnostic texts, and all the way this creation story. We're now at the tail end of that realignment process, and actually planet Earth has been the location where all of the other anomaly, anomaly can also be equated with evil, what we would understand as the concept of evil, like things that are completely disconnected from what we feel internally, just through our own inner guidance system, our spark of our spirit connected to source. We can tell this is just not right. We are in the tail end of having all of that cleansed and realigned. So there are beings we can see that in operation on the planet that are really far into that vortex of anomaly. They're really far into the role play of evil and disconnection from source. So we're in the process of realigning all of that, and planet Earth is the last quarantine location, and actually it's a vortex of anomaly that is happening here.
Yeah.
And in that vortex of anomaly, what is happening is a cleansing of it. So if you look at it like a black hole, it's a vortex of anomaly. It's sucking in all of the anomaly from this entire universe.
Yeah.
But a black hole, we don't have, we of course, in this distortion field, our understanding of a black hole is that it sucks everything in and it disappears into nothingness.
Yeah.
Where does it go? But actually, if you look at the true aspect of a black hole, what happens is it's different. If we could expand our consciousness just a tiny bit and understand that from our perception horizon, we're not perceiving it fully, is that we know there's always a balance. There is one polarity always has to have the other polarity, right?
Yeah.
So in our distortion field, we only see black hole. That's all we see because of the distortion field that we're within is disconnection, right?
Yeah.
And one polarity without the other, not all of them unified, working in harmony. So we're only being given the version of black hole that sucks everything in, and we should be afraid. It's a kind of a fear domain with that, right? Like people think of black holes and they're like, whoa, yeah, it like sucks everything in and everything disappears.
Yeah.
But actually the full perspective of it is the other side of it. And there's scientists are now actually registering through different forms of photographing black holes and picking up on the greater spectrum of energy fields and what we are now able to see visually with different forms of telescopes and things like that are picking up different spectrums of light. Mm-hmm. We can actually now see, they've documented it, that the black hole on the flip side is what we'll just call a white hole. Yes. So there's always this balance. So and it's shooting out electrons.
Yeah.
And they're like, where is it coming from? Well, what that is the black hole is actually, okay, what is your chakra? It's a spinning vortex. What is a black hole? Spinning vortex. What is at the center of everything? An atom, galaxy, everything. The center of it is a vortex. It's a black hole and a white hole. So it actually is a spinning vortex that transmutes energy. So what it's sucking in all anomaly, transmuting it, and sending out the new signals, the new electrons, into a completely different dimension of reality.
This is so funny because I've actually never heard about this before and never read about this before. But one time, while being extremely high with some friends, I made up the theory that you're just telling me right now.
Oh, Jordan, yeah, because you're tapped in with spirit.
That's
brother,
amazing.
You're on it. Yeah, you. So if we actually just relax our consciousness a little bit, and some people use, sacred plant medicine for that. I would caution against that at this moment because there are other things at play with that stuff. But you can relax your consciousness a little bit, expand it, relax. And you'll start picking up this stuff just like you did. So I'll send you some links. There's a woman, Manjir Samantha Lawton. She talks about black holes. She's a physicist who's on the ball, and she knows what's going down with black holes. And everything she's predicted is now scientists are discovering and documenting. So she has really good theories about how everything operates on this vortex aspect of transmutation. So, in the grand play, the grand archetypal play that we're in right now, we are concentrating into this vortex of reality all of the shadow aspects of what we've got now in our collective reality, spinning through this vortex on planet Earth, going through that quote-unquote black hole vortex and coming out the other side purified into the next level of dimension of reality.
And isn't it beautiful that we are right now, in a sense, in the darkest place in the universe, but this happens to be played out on the most beautiful planet ever?
I know, it really is such a beautiful, beautiful experience here. And once we pop out of that bubble of the disconnection,
It's
wow,
heaven. We are in heaven.
Yeah, you really are. You have this infinite possibilities, and it's such a beautiful planet, such a beautiful place to be. And we will co-create with all of the. We're going to join the liberated universe, right?
Yeah.
Once we do our own internal work.
Yeah.
So one of the ways the distortion field operates here, I'll just go back to the same thing, is the disconnection of polarities. Polarities are always happening at the same time. You can never have masculine without feminine. You can never have positive without negative. Yeah. And we're not talking about the distorted version of this. So some people will say, well, you can't have joy without suffering. That is a distorted effect. So that's taking the seed of truth of polarity, working in harmony and union.
Yeah.
Always in the universe, and saying, okay, but we'll put it into the distortion field of our programs and say you can't have joy without suffering. That's BS. Yeah. That's the distortion field. Yeah. Then what that is disconnection. That's going back to disconnection.
Yeah. And so even when we talk about the sun, we see the sun as something masculine. That's why we call it the sun of God. But the sun is an energy generator. And energy can only be generated if both poles are harmonized. So this means that the sun is both masculine and feminine.
Yes.
So this shows us that if we want to be our own generator and we want to generate love and energy, we gotta harmonize both our poles within.
Yes.
But of course, the human body is energetically, in a sense, crucified.
Right. Yes, I remember hearing you talk about that.
Yes.
Was it with Cameron?
With Cameron, yeah.
Yeah. It was really good. I like the way you voiced that. It was excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our energy field has been completely crucified.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have the way distortion plays out on the planet is this disconnection, the polarity being distorted into what I'll call dualism. Mm-hmm. So duality, I would call it even like I would call it dualism. I'll call it an ism because it's a program, right? Yeah. So we have the distortion of masculine energy, which is individual, unique expression and action. When it's disconnected from the feminine, you have that's the distortion field, is the disconnection. So when it's disconnected, you have action without a concept of the effects of what it will be with the whole.
Yeah.
So that's how what wars are. That's the main version of what we're experiencing on planet Earth right now, and what we often focus on, which is this disconnected, selfish, me, mine. I'm going to trample on other people, do whatever I want, and I don't care what effect it has on the whole.
Service to self.
And that's the destruction of the environment. That's the capitalist marketplace. That's the way. It's a big energetic field that we're operating within, is this distorted masculine energy. Okay, mm-hmm. But what we never talk about is the distorted feminine energy. We're in a distortion field, so they're both distorted. So when you have feminine energy, so let's just go there for a minute, because we like to demonize things, right? So right now, the current trend right now is to demonize masculine energy, demonize men, return of the goddess, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying, yes, the goddess energy is coming back. Goddess energy is very much needed because it's not been balanced. But we're not talking about... We're not going to keep speaking in the distortion field of disconnection. Like return of the goddess also includes return of the god. Like you can't separate the two. Yeah. So we are returning feminine energy to the planet, but what we're actually doing is we're returning balanced energy to the planet.
That's
both. Okay, so let's go in. What we don't talk about is the distortion of feminine energy. So feminine energy being stillness, being unity, consciousness, being the whole, and how we see that being played out distorted in our world is the concept that you can't have your unique individual expression. We all have to do the same, act the same, think the same, be the same, wear uniforms, and don't step out of line. So this is the distorted feminine field that we're operating in, and that's a disconnection from the masculine, the unique individual expression, taking action. We're all passive. We're all sitting here waiting for somebody else to do all the action for us, right?
Yeah.
Stillness. So that's the distorted feminine operating system. So we have to transcend all of that and actually go back into bringing them back together in harmony, make the connection back. So that's another metaphor for the connecting back to spirit, connecting back to source, connecting back to all that is. We unify those polarities and have them working in harmony. We have to have both of them operating. So we can't just sit here and go, like there's a lot of folks out there that are like, okay, well, the Pleiadians are going to come and give us advanced technologies and solve all our problems for us.
That's not going to happen.
Well, guess what that is? That's distorted feminine.
Yeah.
That's like sitting here passively, doing nothing, taking no masculine action, unique expression.
Yeah.
So that it's still a distortion field.
I mean, why would we even be here if we don't have to do anything?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we are here as our own unique expression of source.
Yeah.
And it's a free will universe. We can create whatever we want. And so we're here to play and express, okay? But we're in this distortion field, so we got to figure out, okay, well, what's going on here? Well, I don't want to create that. What do I want to create? Okay, well, I'm looking at all the ways in which my thoughts, my actions, my internally created realities are not aligned with my spirit. Okay, well, let's get rid of all that, so that the thoughts that we are holding on to and we are creating our reality from are aligned with our spirit.
Yeah, but does our soul have free will, though, if it's guided by spirit?
Soul is completely programmable.
Yeah.
So if we were operating in a proper non-anomaly space and time, we would incarnate, I think it would operate. I think we would be manifesting our own bodies. I don't think we would be operating quite like we are on this planet at this time. However, I think there are progressive steps to getting to that place, and I might just be speaking from my own other experiences. I don't know if everyone would agree with me. This might just be my own unique perspective, but I have a very conscious knowing that you can manifest your own body, you can manifest any reality that you want. Choosing to come to this planet in this way, through birthing through other beings, that type of thing, that's a free will choice, and we can choose to do that too. But I think if this planet was not in the vortex, the anomaly vortex, even that process would look very different than it does right now. So we wouldn't have outside source syndrome being activated on birth, where our parents dictate our entire reality, and our soul is being programmed through those realities, right? So the soul level is completely programmable. So we come into this incarnation and we learn, what is this reality about? What's going on here? And that comes right from the very beginning. Okay, well, I learned that my body can do this and that this reality operates like, for instance, it's a food chain planet. Okay, well, that's just a program. That's a soul program that we adopted based on the collective consensus of what's going on here. But guess what? That doesn't have to be what you agree to.
Yeah.
So your spirit can say, nah, I'm done with that. Which is what I'm doing next. I'm planning on removing my dependence on food.
Yeah. So how do you plan to do this? Because this is something I'm very interested in myself as well.
Breatharian?
Yeah.
Well, I know it's possible, and so this is part of what happens: is you get these pioneers, these forerunners, these trailblazers who do it, and then you go, "Oh my goodness, that's possible!" It goes into your consciousness, so you've got the 100th monkey effect eventually, and then eventually, none of us are operating in a food chain planet anymore. We've decided that we don't need to do that anymore. Let's not have animals eating each other anymore.
Yeah.
Let's have humans not need food anymore.
Yeah.
Right, and then you evolve. That's called evolution. That is the true form of evolution. Is our consciousness decides where we want to go from the point that we're in, from point A to point B, and a time-space continuum.
Yeah.
So the next step for me is, wow, some brave souls, some brave spirits took that step and said, yeah, I don't want to be dependent on food anymore.
Yeah. Yeah,
and decided to do that. Decided, okay, I'm going to take all of my energy that I need to build all of the nutrients and the cellular structure of my vehicle from the cosmic source of energy. From, people will call it prana or source energy or whatever version of words that you want to use for it. But we know it's possible. Now we know it's possible. Some people have done it. I'm like, heck yeah, that's for me. I'm ready to go there. So that's kind of the next step I'm doing.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, actually, my previous mentor, he used to date a breatharian. And they used to go on hikes. And she would never even drink water.
Yeah.
When they were hiking through the mountains.
Yeah, you need less water when you're a breatharian.
Yeah.
I've heard from everyone that the water consumption is really related to the digestive system, like really breaking down all that stuff. And you need to stay way more hydrated than, I've heard that from every person who has checked out of the food chain system and gone breatharian and said that they don't need to drink nearly as much water. Yeah,
but I've also done some research online, and I've also been reading about people who actually died attempting to be a breatharian.
Yes, this is true, and I think that this is about people's personal places of their evolutionary experience. For instance, I knew about this 4 years ago, but I knew I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
So I think some people are taking leaps and bounds, doing them in ways that are maybe a little bit unconscious, where they haven't cleared some stuff that needs to be cleared yet. And those things surface. Those things will surface, right? So I know, for me, for instance, right now, I can already vibrate in the field of what will come up for me if I chose to do that right in this moment, right now.
Yeah.
I can feel the dimensions of reality that are going to get activated from that process. So I'm ready to clear those. So I know when I go through this process of detaching and doing the transition out of food dependence, I already know what's going to come up for me, and I already know that I need to be in a place where I'm willing and able to go and do that work.
Yeah.
Right?
And how would you describe this work? This work would be then working on your limiting beliefs? Is that it?
Yeah, assumptions and beliefs.
Okay.
And closing those dimensions of reality. They're no longer active.
Yeah.
You deactivate them. You loop and close those dimensions of reality and turn off those operating systems and delete them.
So how would you get rid of them? You just observe them and you recognize that it's actually not true because there have been people who've been able to do it, and you just let it go completely. That's it.
Well, okay, so now we would get into describing the exact process of the healing work that I do.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much something that I've learned from Aboriginal elders, which is we are complete creator beings. We create an entire reality. We are fully and completely responsible for the vehicle that we are in and for our internally created realities. So, for instance, we've observed some things that seem miraculous, or seem like it defies all the laws of physics, for instance, or like we've seen. One teacher that I learned from, he said that he should have been dead 4 different times in his life. And one of those instances was he was in a motorcycle accident, and when that wasn't a death experience. That was just he was going to be very severely injured. Yeah. So as this was, he was on his motorcycle, and as he was coming up, he was going to crash into this semi truck. I believe this story was. So I'm trying to remember it as accurately as possible. Yeah. But I may not have all of the details exactly correct. But I'm giving you what I remember. And so he was going to crash into this semi truck. And at the moment when he was going to crash, he said, well, here comes a couple of broken legs and whatever. And he fully exited. and went through the crash. And guess what? Got up out of that situation, bloop, and pulled out of it, not a scratch.
Because he accepted the
because he looped that space-time dimension of reality very quickly and easily with his spirit, because he knows how to do it. So he stopped it. There was one woman that a similar kind of thing. She was going through it was a car crash scenario as well, where a semi truck was going to hit her car, and basically it blipped straight through her vehicle. There's I think even a YouTube interview of her talking about her experience. It went straight through her vehicle.
Well, okay.
And so these are things where we're talking about. Okay, I mean, just the stories we've heard about Jesus. How does somebody walk on water? How does somebody manifest bread and fish out of nothing? Right? Like to feed people. So these are things that, okay, well, things are not actually as we believe them to be, right? We are operating programs of reality for this hologram that we're perceiving. So we can delete any of those programs that we want. And all it takes is deleting our assumptions and beliefs about it. Yeah. Which are it's not as easy to do as it sounds, but it actually is as easy to do as it sounds. So the healing work that I do, for instance, is about going into the causal point of any effect that we're dealing with in this reality that we are not enjoying. Going back to that causal point, looping that dimension of reality, closing it, and putting it off the time track, and then it is no longer active. So I believe that we can do that with anything. That's the point I'm at. I haven't fully explored the potential of all of this yet. Yeah. But that's the point I'm at now. I'm very excited because I think that we can loop any dimension we want and fully create anything.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited about this that there's very few people. You're like one of the first people I've been talking to about this.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, this is fresh for me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm really curious about your process that's gonna take for you to become a breatharian, and I would love to learn from you how you did it yourself.
Sure. Well, that's on my agenda for this year. To do the transformational process within myself of stepping out of the program of being food dependent. Yeah, and just being able to do it for pleasure or free will choice of whatever. And everyone that I've heard that does that process then says that you eat only for pleasure. And when you do eat for pleasure, of course, that's a free will choice, and there are effects of that. So some of the effects are that you need more sleep and you sweat more and you need to drink more water and all the things that we associate with like that digestive stuff, right? So they choose out of their free will choice to eat very little. And to not really go back into that system, but it doesn't operate the same way because you've completely shut down that operating system, right? You've looped that dimension of reality. And so now you're free and clear and you can choose anything you want. You could recreate that dimension of reality if you wanted to. You could you could plug that operating system back in if you wanted to. I don't see why you would, but you could just reactivate it. But pretty much everyone who's gone that I've seen interviewed and talked about that process has said that they just don't need food anymore. It's just not a part of their reality. They're checked out of that operating system. So, hey, let's think of what other operating system do we want to check out of?
I wanna levitate.
Heck yeah, I want to fly. Like I want to levitate. I want to be able to. Well, the elders could do that, right? Like they could completely bend space and time and go and disappear from one spot and appear in another spot.
Yeah, I think it would also be very powerful for the awakening of the collective if we can show them some of those quote unquote superpowers. They're not really
Okay.
superpowers, they should all be able to do it. But do you think it's even possible for them to see it because they don't operate on that reality?
Okay, so I have thoughts around this.
Yeah.
One of the thoughts is that, okay, you cannot convince someone of anything.
Yeah.
Because they are in an operating system that is plugged in, and they are going to perceive from that operating system.
Yeah.
So you can show irrefutable evidence of something to someone, like that they can see and they can perceive with their senses and observe and know, and they will say, "Oh, that's
a trick. It's just
a trick."
Yeah.
So they won't believe it. They can't process it.
Yeah.
So even if somebody was levitating in front of you, somebody would just go, "Okay, what's the trick? Where's the strings?" Right?
Yeah.
Like you can't convince anyone of anything.
Yeah.
So good luck with that.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. However, there might be some folks who are awake and aware and in their own process of their own journey of evolution and unplugging from the system of domination and control, who might be inspired. For instance, the breatharians that I've seen, I'm like, shit, you did that?
Yeah.
Heck yeah, I'm going to do that too.
Yeah.
So there might be some people who are, bing, the light goes on for them by observing what you're doing.
Yeah.
But you cannot go around convincing anyone of anything.
No, and it's
going to be their own free will choice, own consciousness level of what they want to perceive and what they want to believe.
They are their own creators, so they have every right to believe whatever they want to believe.
Exactly.
So I just sent you a little cool video through the Skype Messenger.
Awesome.
And I would like you and Tim to watch it for one. It's just a really short 20-second video. Okay. But just play it and focus on the little kid in the blue shirt.
Okay. So, should I do it now while we're on the call?
Watch it right now.
Okay, I'm going to watch this little video.
So, little kid in a blue shirt.
Oh, yeah. This is what we're talking about. Yeah. Exactly what we're talking about. Yep. Uh-huh. You got it. See? Ran over the kid. Look, he's completely, nothing happened to him. He just got ran over by a car, 2 wheels. His mom is down. His mom is down and out. The kid has look, his head just got run over.
Yeah,
okay?
so
with 2 wheels. And he just pops up and goes, "Mama."
Yeah. Like nothing happened to him.
And she's down. So this kid, this is exactly what I was talking about. So he probably just didn't have any resistance to that situation. He had 0 resistance. It might have been that he didn't see it coming, or just that it was coming and he couldn't process it and just didn't have any resistance because he wasn't able to process it. It was just a complete surprise. You have people where things happen to them and it's a complete surprise and they're totally relaxed about it, and then they're like, "Huh, what just happened?"
Yeah.
I think, so this is what I said earlier, is the very first step to anything is complete acceptance. You don't resist.
Yeah.
You're not in a place of where you're holding on to any concepts, any beliefs or assumptions about anything.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to get hit by this truck. Okay. And it's not like, I'm not saying acceptance means like agreement. Remember, acceptance is not agreement. So you're not agreeing to be hit by a truck. You're not being passive. You can move out of the way if you can.
Yeah.
However, if it's going down, it's going down.
Yep.
And you go into complete, full acceptance, which closes that entire dimension of reality.
Yeah.
You're not keeping it open and creating a story and holding on to the thoughts of it and feeding those thought forms.
Yeah.
You're letting the universal flow of energy continue. And the universal flow of energy, your spirit is like, "Oh, I'm not done with this body yet," and stays there. And your body gets up and keeps going.
Yeah.
Just like that little boy.
So, of course,
his head was run over.
Yeah.
And he just got up, like he wasn't even squished. Okay, so his mom has been on the planet longer with the programming.
More limiting beliefs.
Or saw it coming and had time for her limiting beliefs to get activated.
Yeah.
And she's playing out those thought forms that she's holding on to.
And of course, it is not like while it was happening, she was thinking about, okay, I'm being hit right now, and this will hurt this part of my brain, and my arm will also be hurt. No, it's a program that gets activated. And it gets activated, so the program will do it all automatically.
Yeah, so that point of complete acceptance is also the 0 point.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. So you're in the 0 point. And that, to me, I think is complete connection with spirit. So your spirit is operating the vehicle.
Yeah.
Your spirit is like, well, get up. And you get up. And you're not harmed. And you're still in the vehicle. You're like, no, this is not, your spirit is dictating.
Yeah.
Your spirit is doing what it feels like doing.
Yeah.
You know, people cure diseases. People do all kinds of miraculous stuff that we can't explain from our limiting beliefs, right? But if you get to a place of full acceptance, 0 point, clear your field, wow, guess what we're going to create from that place? All the stuff that we're dreaming of.
Yep.
All the stuff that our spirit gets excited about, that we're dreaming of. We're going to do it individually and collectively with all the other people who are saying, yeah, let's do this. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So exciting. So now we have tools available, right? Like the tools that I have, other people have other tools, and we're all manifesting collectively, healing for one another. And I have this one modality that I've learned from the elders who were actually tapped into the Earth's bioregenerative field and source and spirit, and they knew how to do this. They knew how to bend space and time. They knew how to materialize themselves. They were performing miracles all the time. They were living in harmony with their natural mind, their natural biofield, and the earth and the natural universe. And even though we've been in a quarantine anomaly vortex for some time now, they still were operating in harmony as beautifully as they could within that field, and it's very effective.
Yeah. So
we're learning all of these ancient modalities and going back to all of these ways in which we're living in harmony and connection with spirit. And so I think collectively we're all walking that direction.
Absolutely.
Right? Well, maybe, but the few who aren't, who are acting out the extremes of the anomaly, the extremes of quote unquote evil. Well, that's just going to get recycled too, right?
Yeah.
So eventually, it's all getting recycled.
Yeah.
Back into realignment.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the Illuminati, for instance, right now, that's just a bunch of very old dinosaur dudes.
I know. But you know what? Those dudes are not even, like the ones that we're seeing, they're not even in control of their vehicle any longer. They're no longer connected to spirit. There are other entities operating through them.
I mean, they are literally psychopaths. And psycho means soul, and path comes from pathos, meaning death. So they're soul dead.
Yeah, exactly.
They're fully taken over.
Yeah, they're fully taken over at that stage. Like if you look at even just like the Freemasons, that you got up to the 33rd degree. So in the earlier degrees, like that's a free will agreement. You're agreeing to that game. You're agreeing to those initiations and rituals, to that game. And guess what that game is about? Domination and control, and they do a lot of occult shit.
Yep.
So you're agreeing to that. So when you agree to that and you take those initiations, you're playing their game. You're basically handing over your spirit. You're saying, here you go.
Yep.
I want what you're offering, which will be, like some power or some social status or some elite community of some sort.
Yeah, and that's how they lure you in.
Yeah, it's how you get lured
Selling
in.
You
get your free will
devil.
Agreement, quote unquote free will, because it is a free will universe. However, people are operating unconsciously here at the time. So they're doing unconscious free will agreements. Yep. So we need to stop, pause, go, what's the effect of what all this is? But by the time they get up to that 33 degree level, I mean, in those higher degrees of those organizations, it's a complete takeover. They are no longer in charge of their vehicle. There's nobody home.
Yep.
That's complete disconnection. That's like the extreme version of the anomaly, right? That we've been talking about.
Yep.
They're not even connected to spirit any longer. They're not connected to source. They're not connected to the unity consciousness. That's why they are psychopaths, because there's a complete disconnection, complete takeover to the extreme. So it's like, I feel for these spirits that have made these agreements.
Yeah.
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 Because probably if they knew the outcome of those agreements, they probably would never have made those agreements in the first place.
Exactly. There's always free will choice. You always have to, in every moment, check in with your spirit. Go, how does this feel with my spirit? What does my spirit say about this?
Mm-hmm.
In everything, always use discernment. It's like, we call it due diligence in our daily lives. Like if somebody is giving you a piece of information or offering you to engage with them, because whenever you interact with someone, there's an agreement. So are you agreeing to their game? Are you agreeing to enter into their game? Because he who enters the game of another is subject to the laws of that game.
Yeah.
That's a universal law.
Yeah.
So if you step into an agreement with someone else, wow, you better do your due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
You better make sure that you ask the questions you need to ask. Don't engage in the game of another.
Yeah.
Create own reality.
Yeah.
Create your own reality and play and offer it to the external reality, collective reality, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just agreeing to someone else's pre-programmed reality.
Mm-hmm. I mean, why would you? Why would you want to limit yourself in that way?
Exactly, right?
Sense. But of course, people don't realize how powerful they are. So that's why they give away their power, because they don't see that they have it.
Exactly. So that is coming from an assumption and a belief that they need an external source of power.
Yeah, and they have been programmed from child on. They have been programmed to believe that they have no internal power and they have to look for something external.
Yes, exactly.
And that's the big lie.
And bless those spirits who are playing those roles, you know, because and forgiveness for the effects that they are putting out into the collective.
Yeah.
And moving on to putting my focus on to my internally created reality and what I'm putting out into the collective.
Yeah.
And once you focus on your internal instead of the external, like, stop focusing on what the Illuminati is doing.
It doesn't even matter.
So it's not about the fact that you're not paying attention. So this is what I'm saying. Yeah. You know, the law of attraction, we were talking about earlier, don't put your attention on the negative stuff. No, you do. You put your conscious awareness there, knowing it exists. Doing the research, going, what is that? What is that? What is that? What are those Freemasons?
Yeah, it gives us information, so we know how to go from there.
Because how can you do your due diligence if you don't ask the questions?
That's it.
So then you are doing your due diligence, and then you are not going out there to try to shift it.
You don't protest. You don't do that. That doesn't work.
Yeah, like you create your own reality within your internally created reality, which is your domain, and that is what you share with the collective.
Yep. It's a big responsibility for ourselves and for everyone else.
Exactly. So this is why my sessions always end with, are you fully responsible for your thoughts? Yes or no?
Yes, we are.
Yes. Are you fully responsible for your actions?
Yep.
Yes. Are you fully responsible for your internally created reality?
100%.
Excellent. Good. And you lock that into the field. And you stay conscious. Yep.
Beautiful.
Good.
Well, I think this will be a beautiful point to end our amazing discussion with.
Yes.
And it was so much fun talking to you. You were on fucking fire. I didn't have to do any talking at all. You're just shooting all this information.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's because I don't actually get to have these conversations very often.
Yeah.
So when I get someone like yourself who's got the lights on, right? It's like, good. I can come for dinner and I can chat.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for hosting the space for me to download all of what's in there. And there's more, probably. We'll probably have lots of conversations as we make all of these discoveries, as we play and we learn and we share. It's just this amazing co-creation that we're in.
Absolutely. And I'm so
I
happy, to be on the path with you.
Yes, yes, brother, you're beautiful. You're a beautiful spirit, and I'm so thankful, grateful to have met you and to be sharing space with you. And this is how we play, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
get to play with our other spirit family who are awake and aware, and sharing their realities too. I'm sharing bits and pieces that I've collected along the way, that I've learned from other people, that I've shared with other people, and bits and pieces that I've discovered for myself as well. And
Yeah,
that's what we're all here. We're here to play collectively together and have fun, create that beautiful symphony.
it's a beautiful play.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you so much as well. And please say goodbye to Tim for me.
Yes, I will. Yeah.
And
He's here, been listening to everything I'm chatting about, and I'm sure he's enjoying it.
wonderful. And yeah, I'm sure that
Yeah,
he got.
he's got a big grin. He was filming me as I was talking. So
Oh yeah, I'm sure he had a lot of downloads from this conversation as well.
yeah, we're all doing downloads for one another. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I'm very excited to upload this conversation tomorrow.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna head off to bed right now. It's
Okay,
about 11 p.m. right now here in the Netherlands.
okay, beautiful.
And
Good.
so I just wish you guys a beautiful day, and we will talk later.
Excellent. Have a good rest.
All
Talk with
right.
you again soon.
Cheers. Love you,
Blessings.
Star.
Love you too, Jordan. Bye.
Cheers.